All right, so welcome everybody at our live stream. I'm Andrea Hoijmans and I'm the curator with NonFiction Photo, and with me is Elizabeth Stepanova. Elizabeth, welcome. What do you do with us, please?
Well, I do publicity for NonFiction Photo, and I'm also just very passionate about world press pictures and photography in general. I'm a rather new addition to the team, but very passionate one.
So it means some fresh views we're going to be getting. And also a reason why we asked you here is because you have a Russian background, and a lot of the nominees which we're going to be talking about have some connection to Russia. So with NonFiction, we organize the NonFiction Photo Festival each year. And part of that is a World Press Photo exhibition. This is a world famous exhibition which shows the best of visual journalism from around the world. This exhibition is actually based on a competition, and this competition is organized for all professional photographers that show their visual stories. It's a lot of documentary photography, it's a lot of photography, but most of all it shows the involved. And then this amazing exhibition actually goes to travel the world, and it reaches over 4 million people each year. So very powerful stage for this kind of photography. Yeah. But right now we don't actually know who the winners are going to be yet. The nominees have been announced. And today we are going to be talking about who we think is going to be the winner of the World Press Photo of the Year. And we will also give you, as our viewers, the chance to vote with us. So we're going to see, which one do you like, which one do we like, and then around 3, the actual World Press Photo of the Year is going to be announced. So very eager to find out.
Yeah, just a little bit, and we'll know who the winner is. Very
so, but of course, it's very important to know about the photographs, because the World Press Photo of the Year shouldn't just be an amazing photograph, it should also be representative of the year and everything that happened in the past year. So that's 2020. So in a moment we're going to be watching a video by the judges of the competition. There's lots of judging panels that together decide who is going to be the World Press Photo of the Year. Various categories, various walks of life, people, curators, photographers that are part of the jury. And they are going to tell you all about their thoughts on the nominees, 6 nominees for the World Press Photo of the Year this year. So have a look at the video now.
Good visual journalism, ethical visual journalism is so important in our day and age these days when we are confronted with such an onslaught of information and news because it has this incredible evidentiary quality.
It seems so simplistic, but photography is proof, it's evidence, and with so much discourse in the world right now, we need that evidence now more than ever.
While we were wary of the significance of the pandemic, we were also, I think, all the judges were very mindful of other stories that were happening in the world as well. You know, right from the fires across many different countries, Brazil, California, Australia, and also what was happening in the US with the Black Lives Matter movement.
There are images that take us to the scene, there are images that take us to people's lives, make us part to this subject's life.
We wanted to reveal something that is unseen, and interpreted in a very strong photographic way. And I do believe that we also managed to do this.
Who telling stories from the heart? You know, we've been discussing a lot about these issues, and finally we got amazing project and single pictures.
I want to have an image to bring discussion and to have some unity together to find a solution, whether it's a problem or celebrating it, whether it's a success of humanity.
You know, the Black Lives Matter movement stood out as one of the most important topics for 2020. And we wanted to find a photograph which we felt embodied the power and the dignity of the movement.
You can feel her pain, her understanding of, you know, her emotions. And in the right side of her, the guy, you know, the agreeing, and we have a statue in the background. It's very rare to capture everything to tell in one picture.
I think it represents a conversation that is very current at the moment in the United States, but it has been a conversation, a global conversation that has been relevant for many communities who are thinking about history and legacy and new ways forward. The story captures the most recent conflict that has taken place in Nagorno-Karabakh. You know, I think it's one of the most human representations of war that I have seen in a while.
This is the magic of photojournalism. When you have a photo like this, you can see pain in this man, and you can have a curtain from the face of the woman, and you can think about the future through the background and the composition of the photo.
When we're thinking about war pictures, we see soldiers, fire, guns, you know, this heavy machinery. But now you see this family, how much impacting from the war.
It really gives you a sense of what daily life and what daily loss looks like in quiet ways, in ways that are away from the eyes of the world.
As a nurse, they are giving the hug to 85 years old woman that they were not hugging each other for 5 months.
So this extremely powerful image shows us how you can cure loneliness, how you can bring to the most of the people some hope.
And you know, it's like if you look at it, the plastic, it's like, you know, the wings, and they are like the angels. And I have a general feeling of hope.
This is how we can survive in the future, by hugging each other.
So this image, speaking about COVID, it was different, and it was the most powerful with a hug. The photographer shows us that it is possible to survive.
This is a very beautifully made portrait of a transgender man and his girlfriend in a very sort of vulnerable moment.
On the one hand, it was so tender, so personal. You almost felt like you needed to look away, that, you know, you'd walked in on them.
It's not easy to get such kind of story and get trust from your subject as a photographer. And this photographer is managing very well.
It documents the difficult or sometimes unbearable life of transgender and LGBT people in our society.
I think it's one of these topics that we need to highlight.
The story is about the desert locust invasion in East Africa.
I think we were all drawn to not only the energy, but this sense that this was humanity engaged in this particular instance against nature. So it just had a very different take on environmental photography.
People are losing their crops. It was ready. Yeah, we have to tell for the rest of the world that what was happening here in East Africa. Plus the COVID, we have this crisis.
You have everything here, you have the COVID, you have the invasion of the locusts, and you have a man who tries to confront them, and this is the battle.
I think this image of the Beirut port explosion really captures, a strong man, but his deep fragility in this moment of crisis, in a beautiful way, but also really encapsulating the pain of the situation.
What we see in the frame is a great moment of humanity, especially in the face of tragedy and hardship. The humanity, man's sort of dignity and ability to actually survive.
If you look at the background of the photo, you see the explosion and the impact and aftermath of it, and also the pain that people had it during these days. So it's not only about one man standing there, it's also about archiving what already happened in Lebanon.
All right, so now we have the word of the judges. Very interesting to see what they're thinking about the various nominees.
Absolutely.
So some important themes that came up, like the pandemic, obviously, Black Lives Matter movement, but also various political issues, and of course the LGBTQ issue.
Naturally.
Anyone that stands out to you personally?
I think for me, one of the most impressive pictures visually is not the same as the most impressive picture story-wise, as I think I empathize a lot more than general public with the war at Nagorno-Karabakh picture, as I know a lot of in-depth story behind the conflict. However, I have to say that the most impressive picture visually for me, I think, was the locust infestation.
It's always a guess, right? I mean, like the World Press Photo of the Year. What makes a World Press Photo of the Year? The judges also say that it shouldn't just be a very powerful image, like beautifully crafted, and don't forget about the craft of the photographer being at the right place at the right time.
Naturally.
Sometimes they have to give like years and years of their life to really get into an area, get to know the area, get to know the people, the issues, and they have to make that one shot that represents a very important issue of our times. And with World Press Photo of the Year, it can't just be that one issue. It has to be representative of the last year. So the photograph that shows what happened in 2020. So very difficult choice. We're going to go over our choices, but you as our viewers, we'd love to know what you well as the nominee for World Press Photo of the Year by Louis Tato. He is a Kenya-based photographer who took a photograph of this chief of a settlement in Kenya who is trying to fight off swarms and swarms of locusts. I mean, imagine if you would zoom out of this photograph, you would see so many of these animals. It's a well-known pest, and actually this is the desert locust, which is the most destructive type, and they are in a massive infestation right now, the heaviest one in over 70 years. What do you think?
It's horrifying. I can't imagine being in this cloud of animals, especially since they're rather aggressive, and I cannot imagine how that would feel like. And the size of it is almost the size of Paris. And yeah,
we read somewhere that one of those swarms, the size of Paris, could eat the same amount of food in one day as half the population of France. So we're not kidding you. This is massive. These swarms of animals will go over the land, eat everything. And they actually came from Ethiopia and Somalia into Kenya looking for food because some interesting things have happened. There were heavy autumn rains and also a late season cyclone, which drove them to rise in numbers and then, of course, go in search of more food, devastating the lands as they go.
Yeah.
What makes this photograph even heavier, apart from the environmentally themed connection, there's also, of course, the pandemic which hit Africa around that time. So this tragedy has actually reached about 20 million people.
And on top of that, East Africa has been dealing with world hunger just in general before the pandemic and before the infestation of locusts. So you can imagine that the locust infestation did not help in relieving the situation at all. If anything, it made it significantly worse.
So what makes this photograph an interesting contestant for World Press Photo of the Year is that it is part of a much larger story. So there's, of course, the hunger, there's the pandemic, and then there's the environmental changes that are happening. Very interesting comparison, though, to the other photograph, which is by a Russian photographer.
Yes, Valery Melnikov. And his picture is depicting the conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh, which is a region in, at the moment, Azerbaijan, but has been almost always populated mostly Armenians. And therefore, it's been disputed who is the actual owner of the land for a very long time. It started in the early 20th century, but with Soviet Union, it became less of an issue as they were all part of the same country. However, in the 90s, as the Soviet Union collapsed, the conflict flared up once again and with a lot more force.
So it's been going for a while. There was a bit of the relaxation in the situation for about 30 years, and it's been going up again. So a heavily conflicted area. And of course, as you can see, the photographer chose not to show the devastation of the land or war or soldiers, but they chose to focus on a family that's in the middle of all of this. Something that is an interesting take on war, because we can all relate to this. The photographer chose to depict a family, and of course the family is in tears. You can see the pain on people's faces, but also the baby in the middle of that.
Yeah, I can't imagine being the mother in that situation where the only thing that you can do is to run away from your home because you have an obligation to keep your child safe.
And of course, life goes on, so people do just live their lives, but they can't possibly. And this really shows how not just this conflict, but in any conflict, war can be such a devastating thing, especially when it's like politically loaded like this. It can drag on for such a long time, leaving the people, not the politicians, not the countries, but the people with the problems. Very strong one, but which one is would win? Which one do you think?
It's a very complicated choice for me because these are, as I said, my very favorite pictures of the 5 nominees. And I'm really struggling here. I think the Nagorno-Karabakh is a very localized issue, while the locust infestation is a much larger, much more significant issue globally.
Like right now.
Yeah.
Because of course, war is something that has been going on for a while, but typically for the times now. So let's go with the locust.
I think so.
All right. Well, let's see which other photograph we're going to be comparing this to. So we have now leaving home. That one we're not going to pick, but we're going to go with the locust, which is our next one. All right.
Right, yes.
Very interesting one. This is the, I like this one a lot. So we're seeing a couple. This photograph reminds me a lot of the World Press Photo winner of 2017. Don't know if you remember, but there were a gay couple in Russia that were hiding out in their apartment from the world. Also, visually, this kind of reminds me of that photograph a lot. Also interesting to know that usually the World Press Photo of the Year is very active, a very kind of active, dynamic photograph. But this photograph is very intimate. It shows a very intimate moment between 2 people. And you've done some research on this one, right?
Well, I was born and raised in the city that this photograph was taken, so I think my research has been sound. This is a picture called Transition Ignat, and it was shot by Oleg Ponomaryov. It's a very tender picture that shows Ignat, the transgender man, in the front and center with his girlfriend. It's a
very, very personal kind of photograph, right?
Absolutely.
The photographer loves to do long-term projects and tries to go into the intimate details of people's lives.
Yes.
And of course, we all know that in Russia right now, the LGBTQ community is under a lot of stress and pressure. But here, the photographer really focused on a personal story that's representative of that. The story here of Ignat is actually that he was bullied in school a lot. He told the school nurse in confidence that he actually wanted to be a man, and the school nurse told everyone, and then he was like permanently bullied. People were harassing him, and this has been a massive strain on his life as a person. But of course, this is a story that many other people have experienced.
Yes, and
in some way.
Interestingly, when I was a child, I remember it being a lot less horrifying issue, and surely people have been bullied as it was not very well accepted, but it was never as strong as it is now with the Putin power taking more and more control of private and public life altogether. This issue came very front in the LGBTQI communities, and yeah,
they have a lot of like different legal status, and a lot of other people, they can't do normal things. They can't just their gender is not legally recognized, right?
No, it's only the biological sex that you've been assigned to from birth. That's the only sex that is at all situated in any legal documents, and you cannot change it, period.
So this photograph, if we're zooming out, I think is representative of a larger issue, because some countries go towards a more conservative stance on this, and some countries are trying to be more liberal and have these people love who they want to love and be who they want to be. But which of these photographs would be a bigger contestant for World Press Photo of the Year?
Oof. Out of these two? I have to say, I really do enjoy the tenderness of the picture, and it's a very large issue, and I think it's also global, because with the rise of populism right now, there's more and more conservatism taking power in politics, and more people start to question whether that's acceptable, whether people changing their gender and identifying as otherwise man or woman is something that they want in a society. So I think
that you would go with that one.
I think I would, yeah.
Okay, let's go with that one. I wonder who we're going to be up against here. So we're going to go with a photograph that's pretty intimate, that shows a very personal story. It's a very modern way of storytelling that you see a lot in photojournalism nowadays. And of course, you can imagine the photographer really had to be very personally engaged with these people to get into a scene like that, when they're holding each other, almost like you're walking in on them. So very personal photograph indeed, which stands for a broader issue.
And I can imagine this was hard work to find people who are openly transgender, as that is something that doesn't happen very often in Russia.
So who are we up against next? All right. Another war photograph. So this photograph is actually based in Lebanon. So Lorenzo Tognoli from Italy. I'm saying that wrong, am I? Terrible. But so in Lebanon, something terrible happened, because there was a massive explosion that happened in a warehouse. There was a large density of ammonium nitrate that exploded, which has a massive impact. Some 6,000 buildings were destroyed or damaged. 190 people were killed. Lots of other people were influenced. It could be around 300,000 people that were. So just imagine the scope of this explosion. I remember this in the news.
Yeah, I remember also a lot of pictures, and especially the one that touched me was, I'm sure that you guys have seen it in the news, was a wedding photography taking place, and the explosion coming to completely overtake them. And that was also absolutely horrifying to watch.
It just disrupts everyday life just like that. So how this actually happened was there was a boat that was in port and it was abandoned apparently, and the dock
Not
officials...
exactly.
No?
No. Actually, the boat, funnily, also belonged to a Russian company. So, yay, 3 pictures of Russia-based influence in the news. But yeah, and the cargo has been taken as it was not according to the rules of transportation or something like that. And it was placed in a warehouse where it was not properly stored, which then eroded and leaked, and that caused, in turn, the explosion.
So the custom officials really did try to get the Lebanese courts to take care of this and tell them what to do and to get rid of it. But then things went sideways, and you see the kind of devastation this has caused. Again, a very interesting photograph that shows not just an explosion and the destruction of that, but a personal story of a man. Actually, if I would run into this man on a normal day, I would be really impressed. I mean, it's a broad shoulders, you know, well, he looks very strongly built, but then of course something like this, it doesn't matter how strong you are, it really breaks anybody down.
I have to say, I love the symbolism of this picture. As you can see on his shoulder, there is a tattoo of Jesus, and the destruction around him. I think their religion also, like tattooed on his shoulder, is bringing it so personal and so global as well. This is not something that can only happen there and then, and that is the absolutely only exception, and no explosions have ever been present like this, and this
but it could happen anywhere.
But it could happen anywhere, absolutely.
And what makes this a World Press Photo of the Year contestant is that it's also representative of the current political situation in Lebanon, because a lot of people are saying that this is the result of government failure, that the government is not standing up for its people, and actually a lot of people started rebelling against the government as a result of this. There's been clashes, there's been a rise up. People even took over some government buildings as part of this.
Wow.
But which one is going to win? Again, I'm actually going to go for the intimate portrait here though, because I kind of feel that we've maybe seen something like this already. How do you feel about this?
I think I agree with you. I think
it's the tenderness in 2 different ways.
Yeah, but at the same time, I would love to see more tenderness in World Press photos in general, as sometimes the pictures that are represented in the exhibitions are, well, depressing.
So let's go with the 2 lovers as our winner for this round. So let's see which other photographs are up. Because I think we have another embrace right here. Oh, I love this photograph. So this is the first embrace. This is a lovely old lady called Rosa in Brazil, and she has not been held for 5 months. So the situation in Brazil, where the corona pandemic has been explosively there, people in homes for elderly, they could not be they couldn't be visited by their relatives, they couldn't be held or touched by staff, and they have been feeling a lot of loneliness. So what they found here, this is a care home, Viva Bern, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and they have actually made this wonderful discovery. So they come up with something called the hug curtain, and that's what you see right here. It's almost like angel wings.
Yeah, I think it's a incredibly powerful image. As we've been all social distancing for so long, the pandemic officially has been called in March last year, the 11th, and since then, I doubt that anyone has had a lot of contact with their elders, and if they had, then probably still through windows and waving at them, which is heartbreaking. And this is such a touching gesture towards the care of elderly.
And not just the elderly, but also all of us, right? I think everybody
Yeah.
can use a hug right now, especially the single people out there. But I guess everybody in general. I mean, this is such a worldwide issue. It hasn't actually been called a pandemic straight away. It took some time. Of course, we all know that the coronavirus started in 2019 in Wuhan, China, but it wasn't considered a pandemic till March the year after that. So it has been officially recognized as a pandemic for over a year now, and we are all dealing with this. So very strong contender. I think this makes even more chance to win than the other one.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. This is absolutely a global issue, and COVID has been omniscient in our lives for over a year, and I don't think there's anything that can beat it.
So maybe our Copenhagen-based Danish photographer Mads Nissen might win the World Press Photo of the Year, but I think we still have one more photograph to discuss.
That is also a very strong contender for the winner.
I was very impressed with this photograph. So it is a photograph by Evelyn Hochstein, and she is the only female nominee out there. So we have
at least for this year.
For this year, yes. Let's make that better next year, definitely. So she is a U.S.-based photographer, and she's working for the Washington Post, and she's been following the Black Lives Matter movement. And of course, this photograph, you straight away recognize what the actual issue is. Lovely comparison between like almost two parties discussing, and in the background we can see the Emancipation Memorial in Lincoln Park. And the photograph is called the Emancipation Memorial Debate. Actually this statue in the background, this debate was happening just after a lot of Confederate statues have been taken down because of their history in the US. So there's been a lot of issue with like which people should we give a stage in public life? Like who are the people we literally want to look up to in public life? And this particular statue is actually of the Lincoln president, who with one hand is holding the Proclamation of Emancipation, and the other hand is like on a black person's head who is sitting there in a loincloth. And this proclamation was, of course, about slavery. And there's two opinions about this. One saying, okay, this is important to show this history that we have now overcome. And the other people saying, this is definitely paternalistic and demeaning to people.
I have to say I agree. It is incredibly demeaning, and I think the positioning of Lincoln on like a higher state and him sort of giving the emancipation to the black people is absolutely incorrect depiction of what actually happened, and black people have been very active in their own emancipation and has gained a lot of power through that, but at the same time it wasn't passed on to them because of nothing.
But it seems with this statue it kind of does, right?
It absolutely does.
It's thanks to the white people in power that they have gained their freedom. But then
Lincoln was good, and that's why it's emancipated now, but it's not the case.
No. All right, so definitely interesting contender as well, because it shows, almost like the old and the new generation. You see the age difference between the two people here depicted. We don't actually know their names, but it's almost like you have the conservative stance versus the more liberal or innovative stance.
Or in the US, it would be probably the Liberal Party against the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, against the Republican Party.
It's like a heavy symbolism happening in this photograph, as well as the one next to it, actually. So we have kind of like okay, the debate, old new generation. We have the angel hug, a more aggressive photograph versus a more tender photograph. Which one would win? I'm also wondering about the audience. So guys, please stop voting right now, because in a minute we're gonna show who voted what, because I really want to know which your favorite was. We still have to determine ours, but we're going to stop the voting process right now. So these photographs, if you compare them to the World Press Photo of the Year last year, which was lots of flames. It was a Venezuelan chaos photograph, red, bright red. I mean, when I saw 6 photographs, I pointed to that one straight away and I thought, this is it, right? Yeah. It's so powerful, it's like really stands out. But with this one, it's a lot harder.
It's almost impossible because both messages are so present in all of our lives right now. Because it's impossible to avoid Black Lives Matter, and it's impossible to avoid COVID. And in terms of story, I think they're equal. But in terms of visual, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think the pandemic is definitely something that's happening now, but it will happen again, and it's happened in the past. Black Lives Matter is something that is happening in the US right now, but it's also happening everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, systemic racism is not something that is exclusive to the US.
And so this is as a past as well, as a connection to the future. So I'm thinking really hard, but I do see the pandemic in the photograph by Evelyn as well. And I'm also really excited for maybe a female winner to be there. So I am going to go with actually Evelyn Hochstein as my favorite. How about you?
I think I agree. And Black Lives Matter is also, it's been present in our lives for so long, and it's going to be still for a very long time. So I think this is a rather timeless picture as well. And it would be great to have a female winner.
So are we ready for our voters already? Maybe we can get the graph up there to see who you guys thought is the best contender for World Press Photo of the Year. Oh, it's a tie. I can't see it properly. Can you see it properly? We have a screen here.
Yeah, well, I can tell that the 5th and the 3rd picture, which are...
Let's get the 5th and the 3rd picture in screen. Yes. So the 5th and the 3rd... All right. Okay, so we have the locus, and let's go to a video of the jury, because it's not just the World Press Photo of the Year, it's also the World Press Story of the Year. This is a new kind of winner because photojournalism, rather than just being focused on the immediate issue, is now also focusing on stories a little bit more, so more long-term projects. We're going to be showing those winners as part of the festival in November in Groningen as well. So please have a look at the video and hear about the judges, and after that we will be showing who World Press Photo themselves picked as the World Press Photo of the Year.
This year we wanted to try to find something that was digging deep, that was looking at the past, at the present, but somehow also at the future.
The selection we made for Story of the Year, it had everything. We saw everything on this body of work.
There were incredible contenders, there were incredible subjects, and it was a difficult decision.
You're looking at a series of images that attempt to tell a story, and it certainly requires a lot more skill and narrative qualities, in the sense that a few images coming together to tell not just about what we see in front of us, but also the nuances of the story.
We were looking for not only powerful narrative, but I think we were looking for a surprise.
We wanted in-depth story, the story which is not many times seen by the world.
It should be a project that be full of the detail and also to make some impact after announcing it.
The focus is on one particular high school basketball team, but through that you go home with the young men. You see them, at home, twirling a basketball. You see them in the locker room. I mean, you feel these young men as teammates, and you also feel the outreach back home into their communities.
I think the Flint story is an incredibly powerful way to show us what sport can do in terms of holding communities together, bringing communities together.
This story is beautifully shot in black and white frames and wonderfully edited. What I also like about this story is that it gives another nuanced look into Black lives in America beyond the protests and the BLM sort of movement.
The story looks at a series of families who are trying to smuggle out sperm from husbands who are actually in prison, and their wives are trying to smuggle out sperm to be able to conceive and to be able to continue their lineage and continue, family legacy and at large continue the existence of this very particular community that has been threatened over time.
Habibi is a set of pictures that are full of symbols and objects, and the objects give us a strong message. I remember teddy bear on a bed. I remember a child without her face because
people are suffering that they cannot have their own baby, and they have so many barriers.
It documents the very long conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia for the unrecognized Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh, which is in the Caucasus, and it started in the 90s after the split of the Soviet Union. This is the story about the tragedy of people who lost their homes, who lost their land. And it doesn't matter what war it is. It happens in every war. People lose their homes, their lands, their hope.
The having it together is giving us a story and also a detail of what's happening. And I think after seeing this story, you are thinking how you can make some impact.
I think that the language which the photographer chose to express, it's not, bombs flying, bullets flying, people dying. It's about the fragility of people who suffer.
So I think by putting it on the WordPress photo platform, especially for someone like me or my neighbors or my family or my friends, they will get a deeper insight into exactly maybe beyond the news, beyond the sort of headlines. And I think that's why a platform like WordPress Photo exists.
year. They have 3 nominees, and we'll probably be seeing them in the exhibition, in the festival later on. So the actual World Press Photo of the Year has not been announced yet, so I guess we have to wait for the actual award ceremony, which is going to happen momentarily. They're going to start at 3:30, and you can...
Their official is at 4. Their official website says.
At 4. All right, so we have a little bit of time for a break. We're going to be all watching here from the NonFiction Photo headquarters. I would definitely advise anybody to go and check it out. It's a free event, it's online, link in the description below. So have a look there, register, and see who's going to be the World Press Photo of the Year. And this photograph, plus all of the other nominees, we're going to be seeing in the exhibition, which is going to hit Groningen in November of this year. We're very excited to be there. I hope you will all be there, and maybe we will see each other in real life.
Hopefully. But before that, social distancing.
Social distancing before that, I mean, covered or not, we're definitely going to go ahead. Hope to see you there. Thank you all for joining. And if you have any questions, just feel free to email us. If you want to join as a volunteer, check out our website. We're going to be talking a lot more on photography in the coming months. And I hope to see you again very, very soon.
Yeah, and we have also an event on 3rd of May. And it's going to be in a similar format, but a lot more exciting. So you can check that out as well. There's news on the website. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.